guys, Shelly Longenecker here from Dinner for $1. I am checking in to share with you how I make my fruits and vegetables last 2 weeks. Okay, so a lot of you know that I like to shop every 2 weeks. My husband does some peripheral shopping for us at different times, but I do our big shopping and all of our produce shopping every 2 weeks. You also know that we eat a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables. So you're probably wondering, how do those two things match? How does she shop every 2 weeks? And how do they eat a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables? Because it doesn't really seem like those two things go together. And one of the most popular questions that I'm asked is how I make that work. How do I make our produce work for 2 weeks in between our shopping trips? And I'm going to share with you today 5 ways that I make our produce last 2 weeks. And I'm going to shoot off with those right here, right now. So the first way that I make our produce last for 2 weeks is through very careful planning. Okay, so I make my meal plan during the first week after I've gone grocery shopping to include produce that spoils quickly. So I use my most quick to spoil produce the first week. And then in my second week, I use meals that focus on using produce that will last up to 2 weeks. And you might be asking yourself, what kinds of produce even last up to 2 weeks? Actually, a lot of produce lasts for 2 weeks. And I will just list some of the things that we use in the second week of our grocery cycle. So produce that lasts 2 weeks in our house are, beets, cabbage, sweet potatoes, spaghetti squash, butternut squash. Sometimes zucchini and summer squashes will last into the second week. I know I'm forgetting some. Oh, cauliflower. And then in the fruit end, of course, apples, pears. Jicama will sometimes last 2 weeks for us. Depending on how I buy my mangoes, those will last 2 weeks. When I buy avocados, I try to buy a variety of avocados, ones that are ready, ones that are close to ready, and then ones that are rock hard. So then we can have avocados in the second week. Of course, oranges. Okay, so I've just listed some things. So I focused the meals in our second week on things that use those types of produce. So in the second week, we might have spaghetti squash with marinara. In the second week is when we're going to have our coleslaws versus like our salads. Or we might have steamed cabbage with something. So, carrots are another one that lasts 2 weeks. I know that I'm forgetting some. So by strategically planning our meals to use produce that lasts the longest, in the second week, we are able to really stretch out our produce. Second way that we make produce last 2 weeks, or the way that we're able to make this work, is we do have a second fridge. Okay, so we have a family of 6. Our 4 children are school-aged, kindergarten through senior year. There is no way that I could store enough fresh fruits or vegetables in one fridge for a family of 6. So we do have a second fridge. I am so sorry. I'm at a job with my son. I wasn't supposed to be, but here I am. I'm at a landscaping job, so forgive all the interruptions here. There's no way that one fridge could hold all of the produce that we consume. And if you check into our for the blog on Thursday, you will see that I have included pictures of what my fridge looks like right after I did a 2-week shopping run. So we do utilize a second fridge, and that really helps with our produce. We do not consume a lot of canned produce or frozen produce. So you might think when you hear that we eat a lot of fruits and vegetables and that I only shop every 2 weeks, you might think that I'm relying on freezer produce or canned produce. And I'm really not. We use almost no canned produce. But we do use some frozen produce, definitely for smoothies, and for some of our soups and stir fries. That's more for simplicity because it's already chopped and washed, and I rely on frozen produce for my really quick meals. Okay, third way that I make my produce last is I use mason jars to store my produce. So any produce that I've pre-washed or pre-chopped, I put in a mason jar to store. And this is one of my greatest tips. If you never learn anything from me whatsoever, just totally learn that you should store your fresh produce in a mason jar. And here is why. Hi, Ruth Ann. Miss you too. You're looking at getting a second fridge. You will love it. You will love having a second fridge. Allison, you need to find a way to get a second fridge, girl. I know your family. I know what food you need. I know the people in your family. That second fridge will help you so much. Oh my gosh. Okay, so mason jars. When I chop fruits and vegetables and put them in a mason jar, they last 5 days. Everything. Yes, Renee, I use mason jars for everything. That's all we use for our cups. It's all we use for, it's our primary Tupperware storage system. They're affordable. They're pretty durable. I mean, they do break, but not much. I'm a huge fan of mason jar storage. So I was going to take a picture today of some lettuce that I chopped 5 days ago, put it in a mason jar, and it literally looks like I just chopped it today. So it is a huge help. I use every size of mason jars. I have the 4-ounce mason jars that are like this. I use those to store like my diced whatever that I have left over from a meal. I have the 8-ounce mason jars. I have 16-ounce mason jars. I have 32-ounce, and I have half-gallon. I use them all. I freeze in them. I put them in my pantry. I put them in my refrigerator. We drink out of them. We have mason jars everywhere. In fact, one of the businesses that I considered starting instead of dinner for $1 was mason jar meals. I was going to create these. This has nothing to do with what I was going to teach today. I can't believe I'm telling you this, but I was going to rent out a commercial kitchen once a week or once every few days and prepare mason jar lunches in a central location, and then have little drop spots over the valley, sort of like those tropical snow cone locations, like tiny little locations, and sell mason jar meals for lunches. I still think it's a great business idea. And anyone hearing this who wants to steal that, go ahead, because I'm not going to do it. I'm too busy with dinner for $1, but mason jar meals, it's a thing. You can prepare actual meals in your mason jar and have them stay good for 5 days. Mason jar salads, you can prepare your actual salad, build it all the way, plan 5 days ahead. It's super nice. Do I mainly use street side, or it doesn't matter? Okay, so street side does better in the freezer, but it doesn't matter for anything else. Okay, so we covered mason jars. My fourth tip for making fruits and vegetables last for 2 weeks is to remain food flexible. Okay, if you have not learned from me yet how to cook without recipes, this is a huge way that we make our produce last. So if you haven't already downloaded the free chapter from my website, go to my website, www.dinnerforadollar.co, and you can get a free chapter by signing up for my email list. In that chapter, it teaches you how to cook without recipes. Why does this help? This helps because once you learn how to cook without recipes, you will become flexible enough to work the produce into your meals that is about to go bad. So if you see that you've got some shrivelly tomatoes, you know, finding a way to work those into a meal. If you see that your you know, zucchini needs to get used up, but you didn't have that on your meal plan yet, you can, once you know how to cook without recipes, you can look at that and you can start thinking, okay, how am I going to do that and make that happen? So cooking outside the recipe box is how I like to call it now, will really help you extend the life of your produce and use what you have on hand. Good for only 5 days, or does it depend on the fruits or veggies? Okay, Ruth Ann, the only thing that I have found that does not last 5 days so far is tomatoes and avocados. Although cut avocados in a mason jar will last a day, they do not last 5 days. And tomatoes are also a day in my experience. If you have more questions about that, let me know. But everything else lasts 5 days. Some of it lasts longer, but I can't say that because that's against like USDA food regulations. But we extend it in our home a little longer than that. Okay. So the last thing about making your fruits and vegetables really stretch out is learning how to reduce waste. And that really comes back to what I was just teaching about cooking without recipes, or expanding your use of recipes, remaining food flexible. I do something every few days, which is what I call my fridge check. So every 3 days I do a fridge check. That's where I check everything in my fridge and see, okay, what's going bad? What do I need to use up? We just did this last night. I was planning to cook dinner. And then I looked at my fridge and I'm like, oh boy, we've got a bunch of little things that need to get used up. And so on the fly, I created a dinner that made no sense, but ended up working out for everybody. And it used up what we had. It reduced food waste. It was recipe-free cooking. And it only makes sense that the longer you're able to make your fruits and vegetables last, the less fruits and vegetables you're throwing away, the less you're gonna have to go to the store. So, and the longer you can make all that work. And the less you go to the store, the less money you're going to spend. So I hope that made sense. I had a lot of distractions that I was not expecting during this live. This is actually a really important teaching. So if you have any questions at all about how to make your fruits and vegetables last, please ask me. I am around. I have really figured out some great skills for this one topic over the last several years, and I love to teach about it because the less I go to the store, the less money I spend, period. The less I go to the store, the less time I spend, the less energy I spend. So I'm always trying to find ways to go to the store less. I haven't figured out how to avoid the store. So you do actually still have to go grocery shopping. You can't skip that. I've tried that. If you try that, you'll spend more money. So don't do that, but definitely work on going less. Okay, I am signing out. And if you have questions, please ask them. I know that I will be blogging about it. So if you want to learn more, read the blog on Thursday. That will be a finished product.